Essential standard number 8. Solving cubic equations. This particular problem is very easy because it happens to factor. And so one way to handle this problem is to factor it. There's only one kind of factoring that you can do to a problem that has 4 terms. It's called what? Grouping. However, not most of the time when we give you a problem, it's not factorable. So we'll have to do another one after this that doesn't factor. But factoring is a technique to solve a cubic equation. Could the rest of you tell this one factored? Yeah, some of you could? Good.
Because it's 4.
No, not because it's 4 terms. It just happens to factor. If I changed this number to a 3, it would no longer factor. If I changed this number to a 7, it would no longer factor. Okay? The fact it has 4 terms doesn't mean it factors. Okay? I happen to know this one factors. Okay? If you know this one factors, then factor it. If you don't know it factors, choose a different method to solve it, which we'll do another one. This one does factor, however, by grouping. You group the first 2, you group the second 2. You take out a GCF. What's the greatest common factor here? 4x squared. What are you left with? X plus 1. That's very important. When you factor by grouping, what you end up with right there has to be what you end up with right there, or you didn't do it right. Also, when you factor by grouping, if your third term is negative, your greatest common factor is going to be negative. And the greatest common factor here is what? -1. And what did I say has to be here? The same thing that was right there. So what has to be there? X plus 1. Can you see now? And now, factoring by grouping, the rest of it looks like this. You take what's in front of this problem, and what's in front of this problem, and you do what? You put them in their own set of parentheses. And then you write x plus 1 how many times? Once. You do not write x plus 1 twice. And this problem is solving, so we have to finish solving it. How many solutions will there be? No, 3. Solving a cubic equation has 3 solutions. Now, shh, in the back. One way to do it is to completely factor it. Can you recognize that 4x squared minus 1 is factorable? Okay, if you do, factor it, 2x minus 1, 2x plus 1, and x plus 1. Apply the zero product property. 2x minus 1 equals 0. 2x plus 1 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. You get x equals 1/2. X equals -1/2, and x equals -1. If, when you got to that step of 4x squared minus 1 times x plus 1 equals 0, you did not notice that it factored, you could still finish finding the solutions. Just recognize that it's quadratic, okay? 4x squared minus 1 equals 0. What's the next step? Put your hand down. Add 1. What do you get? 4x squared equals 1. What do you do now? Divide by 4. x squared equals 1/4. How many answers are there? 2. What do you do to find it? Square root. What do you remember? Plus or minus. So you'd still get all 3 solutions the same way. You could have taken the very same question and solved it with something called the rational root theorem. That is P over Q. You always start by trying 1 and -1. The rational root theorem tells you to try all the factors of this number over all the factors of this number. Remember? You do synthetic division. Synthetic division, what's synthetic mean? Fake. Synthetic division is just that. It's fake division. What you do is you take all the variables out of the problem. And then there's a certain process. You start by trying 1. You bring down the first term. Anytime you have a number down here, what do you do with it? Multiply it by the number in the box and bring it to the right. Anytime you have 2 numbers, what do? Add down. Anytime you have a number down here, what do? Multiply it by the number in the box and put it there. Anytime you have 2 numbers, you add down. What's your goal?
To get 0.
To get 0. What does it mean when you get 0? It works. It means the remainder's 0. It means that it goes into the problem with no remainder. So did 1 work? No. What do we try next? -1. Same process. Bring down the first term. Then what? Multiply it by the number in the box and add down. Then multiply by the number in the box and add down. Multiply, add down. We got 0. That means that -1 is one of the 3 solutions. This line right here is called the depressed equation. This is 4x squared plus 0x minus 1. In other words, it's 4x squared minus 1. Can you see how we can find the other 2 solutions? Add 1, divide by 4, take the square root, and don't forget plus or minus. If we gave you a problem to the 4th power, quartic, which when I taught honors, that was their standard, a quartic equation. You guys also usually see this like on a multiple choice question. It's not the essential standard, but we still expect you to know how to do it. Then you would have to do exactly what you were saying, is you'd have to find a solution, depress it down to be cubic, find another solution, depress it down to be quadratic, and then personally I would use the quadratic formula.